Now that the book The Terrible Insects has been out and available for order through bookstores for almost a year now, I thought it would be a good time to take a few minutes, make a video, and let you see some of the illustrations in the book and just a little bit of the story behind the illustrations. So you'll have a sense of why you might want to buy this extremely funny book, illustrated by Alexandra Radic with this great artwork. And here on the cover is Gerard the Grasshopper, and overhearing their conversation, Sylvester the Silverfish, one of the main characters in the book. So inside, at the beginning of the book, you see some of the insects at one of the Terrible Insects regular weekly meetings at their buffet. And one thing that smaller insects learn that want to join the group is that the buffet may be their last meal. And you really need to read the book to understand what I mean by that. But the small insects, they may just want to avoid the terrible insects. Now, from the last video, you got a sense of this illustration right here. This is members of the terrible insects doing something just awful to this poor family trying to enjoy a picnic. And just look at the little boy. As I said in the first video, these are flies dropping some really disgusting stuff into their food. And that is one thing about this book. It is funny, and it is also disgusting. At one of the terrible insects meetings, a rabbit shows up, and the terrible insects all scatter and run for their lives. You can see even this worm is looking back, hoping the rabbit doesn't come even another couple steps towards him, because it wouldn't be good for insects if a rabbit walks in their direction. The rabbit may not be concerned about what he steps on. This is a big spider with multiple eyes in his cobweb, and you'll see he has a jar of mustard handy right there, which is part of the story, because this is one of the terrible insects that did something terrible to another local insect, and this is where he ended up. And mustard plays an important part in what happens to that bad bug. You'll know about it and why it was kind of Sylvester's revenge. Here's a really disgusting cockroach that's one of the terrible insects. I can't even tell you what he's rolling around in, because you may be getting ready to eat lunch or something and you'll be really disgusted. You'll have to read the book to know exactly what I'm talking about. But I guarantee you it's not good. And neither is this when the terrible insects decide again to do something to a poor family that's taking a picnic. And the family opens the lid on some of their food, and that cockroach you just saw is sitting there, you can imagine how disgusted that poor family is. Here's two of the terrible insects having a conversation. Gerard and Andrew the ant. And again, this is from a chapter called The Truth About Bernard. And Bernard was one of the terrible insects that had something pretty bad happen to him. This is when the terrible insects tried to recruit some birds to help them get back at Sylvester the silverfish. And just look at how wonderfully Alexandra Radic illustrated the bird pictures. Beautifully done by one of the really great artists out there. And an artist from the country of Serbia. Here's another scene where this centipede has been recruited, and what he does by mistake is a big mistake, and not what the terrible insects wanted. And then the last illustration in the book says, "Find Sylvester," and it's a meeting of the terrible insects. You see all of them there listening to Gerard the grasshopper, and Find Sylvester will probably be part of the title of the next book, because finding Sylvester is part of this story, and you'll understand why when you read the book. So here's the back of the book. And this says, don't read this book just before eating lunch, because it is just that funny, but that disgusting. Find the terrible insects at your favorite bookseller, for order through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and just about every other bookstore anywhere. It is a fun book. It's funny. You'll enjoy it. It's for 4th, 5th, and 6th grade readers primarily. And again, I'm author K. Richard Douglas, and I hope you enjoy this book.